This might come as a surprise, but there is no Christianity. There never was. There are only Christianities. In the beginning, the early church was diverse and multifaceted, and who Jesus was not exactly clear. And that has not changed. 2,000 years later, and Christianity is still diverse and multifaceted, and the consensus who Jesus was is still as elusive as it was when the church was young. And because history is open to ingenious interpretation and creative speculation, the story of the church is full of rumors, fabrications, conspiracy theories, and sometimes secrets. More after this. This early church primer is about the beginnings of the Christian church. The study of Christian history is for and foremost an educational issue. When you are born in the Western world, then you are influenced by Christian ideas and attitudes. And that is true even when you're not interested in religion in general or in Christianity in particular. Western history is Christian history. Whether you believe in anything the various flavors of Christianity teach is a secondary matter. The foundation of the Western world is firmly built on the faith in the man from Galilee. His life, death, and resurrection have shaped Western history like nothing else. If we want to know who we are, we can't escape the Christian church. There is no history of Christianity. There is only a history of Christianities. The movement was diverse from day one. There was never the one true and orthodox faith. There were and there are theological ideas that survived for longer than others did. There were beliefs that went into fashion and there were beliefs that fell out of fashion. There was always the attempt to define the one and true authoritative way to understand the event of Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. But because that has been proven to be elusive, the history of the various flavors of Christianity is a history of arguments, debates, and conflicts. When we look at the beginnings of the Christian church, we will discover no widespread conspiracy of, for instance, the Vatican to suppress historical material, because a historical Jesus differs so much from the Christ of faith that when we only knew the truth, the Pope could file for unemployment. There is also no secret Bible code that lets the initiated know that the world will end next Tuesday, and that only those who are smart enough to crack the hidden Bible code will meet Jesus in the clouds, and the rest will be left behind. And there is no sophisticated plan of the early church to make up a religion for which they die in the arenas of Rome so that 500 years later the Pope can live the high life, or that the church today has something to inconvenience independent urbanites. The simple fact is that there is no unbiased history of anything. There is no religion-free study of religion that gives you only the facts, as modern secularists would like to have it. History is by its very nature interpretation. In the case of the ancient church, it is the interpretation of texts and of archaeological evidence, and both are not self-explanatory. There will always be a lens through which you look at the material and through which a historian or a theologian tells the story of Christianity. In the ancient world, there is no separation of the religious and the secular. This separation is a concept that is 1700 years in the future. In the ancient world, religion and spirituality is part of life at all times. Whatever you do, wherever you are always inseparably linked with the realm of the supernatural, the unseen, and the incomprehensible. That means we dive into a world that is very different from the world in which we live. It takes some work and some imagination to understand how Christian ideas formed and developed. These ideas created distinctive communities that had distinctive cultures. If you look at these communities, we might discover some clues how we came to be how we are now. In the end, we look at history to understand ourselves. Historical science, until very recently, focused on great men who determined the fate of empires and of nations. There were very few great men among the first Christians. For the most part, they were poor slaves and freedmen. They were people who did not matter, and those people do not leave records. That means, for the most part, the very beginnings of the early church remain shrouded in history. The material we will look at comes mainly from historical literature. Naturally, there is no view of history that all historians agree upon. Opinions are diverse and often contradictory. So what you see and hear is also biased through the selection of the available material. And sometimes there is no historical material at all. The veil of time hides what actually happened. Then all we have are the legends of the heroes of the faith, of the martyrs, the heretics, the bishops and the apostles. But God gave you the ability to figure out what makes sense to you and what doesn't. So, please subscribe to my channel and I will see you in the next video.